Y'all, what's happening? What's happening? It's your boy, Brian Forbes. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Black Factor. We are on the air live all the way from Chicago, all the way from Chi-Town, my hometown, doing what we do. And I want to welcome everybody, my Black Factor family. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Like always, I appreciate you. You know I do. Now let's remember, this is the Black Factor. Talk about things that affect Black folk. Um, where perspective is everything. And we got the news that you can use. So always remember to hit the subscribe button, the share button, the follow button, and all of those good things because it helps to continue to support the show. Quilla Hughes is in the building. Hey, lady, how you doing? It's good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Y'all, I'm in Chicago still. We are in the mobile studio all the way from Chi-Town, about to get Chi-Town where we get down. See, I'm a rapper, y'all. You heard that right. Let me quit playing. Okay, so this is gonna be an abbreviated show, y'all, because you know I'm not in the main studio tonight, and y'all know what it is. I like being at home in my domain, if you will. It just makes life a little easier for me. But it's also one of those things where I've been so busy here at home because I've taken the time out, come to Chicago to visit the family and take care of some family affairs, and be around the people that I love. Jaquilla Hughes asked, "Did you find a jacket?" Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. I was lucky enough. A good friend of mine took me to a nice little what we call watering hole where I could get the things that I need, and I was able to acquire myself a very nice jacket. As a matter of fact, it was still hard. Don't get it twisted. It was hard. It was hard for me to find one. Val Wells is in the building. What's going on, Val? And Donald K. Thompson, my man. Donald, I'm in the neighborhood, man. I'm on the block right here on King Drive. You know the business. You know what it is, where we grew up, stomping around, doing what we do. Um, we're going to talk about a couple of these main events that are going on right now because we got to, drop a little bit of knowledge about what's happening and try and make some sense out of it. Because, some of this, well, that's a stretch because y'all already know a lot of the stuff that goes on, it don't make no sense. But we try to do the best we can with it, and that's all that matters, I guess. That's the important part. So, also, let me mention that we're going to on Friday. We're going to talk to, of course, we're going to have the Tea Lady on. Y'all know we love the Tea Lady. We always have a good time when she's in the building. And when she comes in, we're going to discuss on Friday, because this is Autism Month, April is, and we're going to discuss the ins and outs of autism and the ways that people can begin to understand it and help to work into the, it's like anything else. We want to understand it, and we want to understand what we can do to help it, uh, help those who are struggling with it, parents who have children of autism, and so on. So we're going to work real good with that. Kim Shelton is in the building. Hey, Kim, how you doing? Thank you for tuning in. Big Butch is in the building too. My man, good to see you, my brother. Now, I want to get right off into this thing, y'all. How many have you have seen? Show me some thumbs up. How many have seen the video of the military officer who was pulled over by police officers and basically dehumanized right there on the spot? An attempted lynching, if you will, of a military soldier, someone who is not just, and it's not to deny those individuals who are enlisted, but this was an officer. This was a second lieutenant in the military. At what point does common sense kick in when it comes to the way officers handle people of color? At what point, see, and it just shows you that it didn't matter to him that this was a man serving the country. One thing stood out to me in that video, when the officer kept yelling at him, telling him to get out of the car, as they were beginning to rough him up, the police body cam, it glanced across the American flag on this gentleman's uniform. And I thought that to be very, very telling, very interesting, just kind of metaphoric, if you will. But it goes to show you that it doesn't matter to some people in this country whether or not you serve or who you are if you have this simple thing, this simple yet complex skin tone. You become a target, you become cannon fodder, you become casualty of war, you become a victim because the villain is looking for victims. And they did everything in their power to attempt to victimize that man. They talked to him like he was a child. Y'all know, boy. Remember that? See, some of you younger listeners may or may not understand the significance of the mentality of a white individual, no matter their age, to disrespect and talk to black males as though they are children, because that is the part of the narrative that has always been a part of America, is treatment of black people and black skin. The interesting thing, and by the way, I'm very excited that he is uh, suing that department. I'm also equally, if not more, excited that the officer who told him to ride the white lightning, that told him that his life wasn't going to change one way or the other, this guy got arrested for non-compliance. Well, guess what? His life is changed because he's been fired, and I'm excited about that. I am excited that at least the other officer who was with him, attempting to back him up in this situation, was smart enough. If you go back and I watch these things kind of at length. I go back and I rewind and I watch and I look, and I found his facial expressions to be very telling. That officer stood there with a look on his face like, "What are you doing?" What was sad to me is that people have this thing where we talk about there are some good cops and some bad cops. Well, as good as that other cop may have been, he just became bad. Why? He became bad because he didn't have the balls to stop that officer from the behavior that he was exhibiting, knowing full well that he was dead wrong. He knew that officer was wrong. He knew what he was doing was wrong. And rather than stop him, he continued to back him up. Although you could see the look on his face where he knew damn well that officer was dead wrong. And everything that officer said on camera, thankfully, has come back to haunt him. Or as Malcolm X once said, the chickens have come home to roost once again. So that fellow will be looking for a job. Now, I hope and I pray that another department does not pick him up. And this is part of the reason why police reform is so important and why it's necessary for, in the future, there be some form of federal policing of the police to a degree where an officer who violates people's civil rights and goes against the Constitution and creates situations like this don't have the opportunity to go to another department, sign on, and go back on the street business as usual. This needs to change. The other day, a good friend of mine on Facebook made a comment on her page, and she said that we talked about whether or not more police would make a difference in our society, in particular, so to speak, hotspots, crime hotspots. The question becomes, when there's crime in particular places and it is concentrated, you have to ask yourself why. Because generally, when crime is concentrated in the places that it's concentrated in, usually it's a place where people don't have anything. Not really. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of resources and things that people can rob them of that's going to be of any significance. Yet crime seems to be high in those areas. Why? Not because these people are sitting on a ton of money and everybody is like, oh, we got to break into their vault. No. Because there's a lack of resources. Some things must change. And it seems that in those hotspots, there's always an overabundance of police officers. There's always an overabundance of people looking to dehumanize those that they have deemed to be animals, those that they look down upon when these these white officers come into these black communities and they arrest black people and treat black people like animals. And they go back to their nice, quiet homes in their neighborhoods. But they're not over policing. Don't get it twisted. The crime is equally uh, taking place. The difference is that there are not a whole lot of police around to arrest everybody for every little infringement just because they feel like it. It's not that it's not happening. It's happening. The difference is they don't have 10,000 cops sitting over there who are not from their community. I believe personally, this is a personal opinion, that at some point there has to be a return to community policing by the citizens and by officers who are actually from the community, people who understand and know the community and know the people in it and know what needs to be done. Every situation, every nail you see don't need a sledgehammer. Some nails need to be subtly knocked in, just a little bit at a time. Everything don't require a hammer. Some things just need to be stroked a little bit. At what point do we in society get tired? I am optimistic for once. Y'all know how I am when it comes to these types of things, and I always say that something catastrophic must take place in order for us to bond together and to make change. But I am happy that at least with each incident, there's a growing number of people, a growing number of concern, a growing concern nationally and even globally about the way these things are being handled. And I'm happy that we have, at the unfortunate expense of George Floyd, the opportunity to watch him go on trial, one of the most thorough prosecutions I've ever seen in my life, fact or fiction, fictional or truth or in real life. I've never seen a prosecution this thorough. I'm glad that an example is being made. They have turned George Floyd into a martyr. I'm happy that the opportunity is being presented to the world to show that these police officers are not above the law. It has become necessary for us to be sure that these things are dealt with and dealt with properly and fairly. We need to get rid of qualified immunity that these police officers have. These officers have the opportunity to kill someone, some unarmed citizen, because they were scared for their life, unfounded, from an unfounded basis, and go home and talk it over with their wife before they even talk to an investigator. No, that's wrong. There needs to be change. There has to be police reform, and I believe that it is beginning to take place now, because of the fact that we have yet another officer-involved shooting happening in Brooklyn Center, Minneapolis yesterday. They have started to loot and riot and protest in Minneapolis yet again. The young man's name is Daunte Wright. Now, the interesting thing about this particular murder by police is that they are saying that it was essentially an accident. Why was it an accident? It was an accident because this officer claimed, or I believe they pulled the video from his his body cam, and on the video it said he yelled taser before he pulled the trigger. The only problem is he didn't have a taser in his hand, he had a pistol in his hand, and he murdered that young man. Now, immediately, because I am a suspicious black man, y'all know how that goes. Y'all know we are always looking at things from a different perspective, and you know this is the Black Factor. Perspective is everything. My perspective, my immediate perspective, got me to thinking. And I said, and okay, for people who don't handle firearms, right? I can tell you as a person who does handle firearms, but which is where you put your palm on the end of the gun of a handgun, does not feel the same as the butt of a taser. So that leads me to question, was that a tactic? See, that was my immediate thought. Did he knowingly pull his pistol, shoot this young man, say taser, and say, oops, I made a mistake, and be not prosecuted, particularly at the um, scale that Derek Chauvin is being prosecuted? I believe and I hope that the Derek Chauvin case makes these officers shake in their boots. I know they're going to always be holdouts. There's going to always be those ones who think that they're still above the law and they're going to still try it. Because I cannot imagine being a police officer, waking up in the morning and thinking to myself, I could potentially go to jail for the rest of my life after going to work. If I do the wrong thing, I could lose my freedom, my resources, my family, and everything that goes with that. What's wrong with dropping off the arrogance? Check your ego at the door. Check your ego at the station before you walk out and begin to deal with the world. See, when a person has a natural mindset to be one who dehumanizes, one who has a particular ideology about people of color, they walk out their door believing that they are better, stronger, faster, smarter. And they believe that these people that they are policing of color are beneath them. And so they behave the same way that officer behaved on the night when he pulled over that military officer. Why? Because he did not see the drive out tag for that brand new Suburban, which was in there, then decided somewhere in between pulling him over and the actual stop that this was going to be a dangerous stop. Guess what? You didn't even have to stop him. You could have kept going. If you were that scared for your life, you really didn't have to pull this guy over. He wasn't bothering anybody. He hadn't committed any crimes. The crime that the officer thought that he committed was one of a vehicular nature. It wasn't a violent crime. It wasn't, he hadn't run anybody over. Nobody called and said, oh, this guy's driving all over the road. He wasn't drunk. He didn't smell weed. This man was in a military uniform. There was no reason for them to approach that vehicle with guns blazing. None. And then talk to him like a child. This is somebody who serves our nation, who helps to provide the freedom that that officer receives every single day at his job. That man protects his right to be the police and behave the way that he was behaving. See, these are the things that many of them take for granted. But y'all know we did that whole show on blacks in the military where we brought it all the way from the very beginning of where people of color have been a part of the military as long as this nation has been in existence and before. The very first black man to die in a war in what we know as these United States was a black man, Crispus Attucks. Every single war that has been fought here and abroad were fought with the help, and oftentimes without the help of black folks, we would have lost. Let's just be 100 about it. There are plenty of battles that were won by black regiments. However, your history books are going to be remiss and they're going to be slow about telling you these things. Why? Because then it looks like white people actually needed help to win a war side by side with those that they choose to oppress, those that they would rather have in slavery and in chains. They had to unchain us long enough to fight their battle. They don't want you to know that part. They definitely don't want their white children to know that. This is America. Now, this guy in Minneapolis who said that this is an accident because he shot Daunte Wright with a gun, claiming or believing that he had a taser in his hand. I'm sorry, but that's a stretch for me. That's a stretch for anybody who knows the difference between a firearm and a taser. Aside from which, I want y'all to pay attention to this. When you look at a police officer on the street, I want you to watch. Next time you see a cop, I want you to look. I want you to pay attention. Usually, most of them do not keep their taser on their belt where they keep their gun. Taser is usually strapped across their front or somewhere with a closer ability to draw than their firearm, which they have to actually reach to their hip to draw. So are you telling me that you reached for your hip, drew your firearm, and then yelled taser and didn't know the difference? How many times have you drawn that taser? How many times have you drawn that firearm? Deborah Scruggs says, or the leg. Exactly. You don't draw from the same place. I am a legally licensed permit holder, firearm, CCW, whatever you want to call it, carrier. I know where my gun is at all times. I know where I reach for my gun if I need to. You must know these things because if you get into a situation, if he's that confused, and David Neal said it was a female officer, that's even worse. Look, if you get confused about which weapon you're drawing, what does that say about, number one, your training? What does that say about your ability to be a police officer? Are you really that scared? Now, and that leads me to this question. Apparently, Daunte Wright had warrants. But now, just because he had warrants and they were intended or were going to arrest him anyway, which is fair, fair is fair. What kind of crimes were these warrants for? Were they traffic tickets? Were they for a murder? See, you see all the space you have in between those two situations? What were those warrants for? Because if they weren't for violent crime, there was no reason to be even thinking about any of the things that took place. See, again, it takes that mentality and that ideology to dehumanize somebody, and these officers are very quick to do that. Then it made me think about this. I got to thinking, I said, well, shoot, he made a mistake, or she, now that I know that, thank you, made a mistake, drew a weapon, and in drawing that weapon, what made her decide that it was just a good idea to do that anyway? Did he attack? Did he not? And I'm be honest with y'all, I don't know all the details yet. I'm gonna dig deeper into the story because, like I said, y'all know I've been in Chicago the last few days taking care of family stuff, so I've not dug deep enough into the details of these stories. But I'm going to have more information for you on this stuff on Wednesday because y'all know I got questions. I always got questions. And the real issue is that we must always ask the right questions. Don't just ask questions. You got to ask the right questions. And these officers, they're very, very quick to dehumanize. See, this is not really, to me, they talk about training, but to be perfectly honest with you, this is not really a training issue. This is a life issue. This is an issue of people and the way they were raised, and what they were taught to believe, and what they hear and see from their peers, how they feel about those that they look at, and those that they have to deal with. That's what this is about. And a lot of this is not teachable. You can't take a person's mind and just switch it around whenever you feel like it. You can't change a man's heart just because you put him in more training. That's not going to work. See, that's the problem. That's the scary part about all of this. You can't train this away. This don't just go away. It's not how this works. It doesn't just disappear. No matter how much we would like to will it away, no matter how much we'd like to change it, it's not going to just, oh, guess what? We trained him how not to hate black people. No, they don't have training for that. See, again, you ask the wrong questions, you're going to get the wrong answers. And they think that training is the answer to the wrong question. The right question is, what is the necessary psychological test that needs to take place that will determine whether or not a person is capable of doing the job of a police officer unbiased and uphold, or should I say, you can't even say uphold the law because that's really not an officer's job. An officer's job is to stop a person who is offending, if you will, an offender, someone who has done something that is outside the parameters of legal ideas. And the crazy thing about the law, as y'all know, is that it can be wrong and be legal, like slavery was, like the way black people have been treated for a very long time. The fact that legislation has to be put in place in order for black people to gain their rights is a scary notion within itself. The law is a dangerous thing, and this is why voting is so necessary, because in order to make the laws that are going to benefit us as a people, you have to put the people in place that have your best interests at heart. Otherwise, none of it matters. These officers, as Kim Shelton just put it, are paid to serve and protect. But we very rarely see them serving anyone, and in fact, are not protected. Let me tell you something. I'm in Chicago right now. This is home. This is a place that I'm comfortable in. This is a place that I grew up. This is a place where I understand the culture. I understand the dynamics of living here. I understand all of that. Although things have evolved, there are some interesting things that go on here. But what I find very, very funny, it's not funny, but it's funny, is that living here, my head is on a swivel at all times. It is a very far chasm between living in this environment and where I live now. It just makes me feel some kind of way. And I feel like I need to be over my shoulder watching for people who want to rob me or carjack me, and looking over my other shoulder for police with bad intentions. That's a hell of a way to go. This is where we are. Naya Foster says they don't want to mess with the psych test. She says, I was on a policing reform committee and kept asking, can we look at the psych profile? I'm not on that committee anymore. Yep, exactly. Because you know why, Naya? You were asking the right questions. No one wants you to ask the right questions, because the minute that you do, red flags go up. Because now you're getting to the heart of the problem. You're digging for the roots. They're going to protect those roots, because those roots are grounded in oppression. In case y'all didn't know, and I'm going to get the dates on this, there are marches, national marches coming up. They are basically white people who feel that they're losing their grip of power. I believe it's White Lives Matter, something like that. I'm going to get the details for that. I'll have it this week, y'all. I just think that is so arrogant. Here are the people who have been oppressing, running, killing, pillaging the globe for the last several hundred years. And now, because white folks put the Constitution in place and the power for other people to actually share in that control, now that the game has rotated and changed just a little bit to the point where we figured it out, where we have become unafraid to deal with the politics of it all. Now they're afraid that chickens are about to come home to roost again. So now they're going to stand up. And what this reminds me of, for those of you who don't know, during the early 1900s, they used to have Klan marches. They were national parades. They were huge. There were hundreds of thousands of people involved in the Klan in those days. If you go on YouTube or some of the other documentary sites, you can dig up Klan parades from back in that time. Whole families were involved, and they got out and marched for white power. What we're about to see from these groups that are about to do this across the nation here coming up is a very similar situation. They are trying to recruit those who would support their white is right ideology. Well, I tell you, this is America. America, KK, America. This is where we live, y'all. I wonder why more white folks ain't accidentally killed by police or unarmed and killed by police. What is that? How does that happen? You know how that happens? It happens because, like Tanea Foster said, those policing boards and committees don't want to talk about psych tests, about the psychological profile and background of those officers, because then they won't have any cops, or they'll be all black or people of color. And we can't have an all black people of color police department. What would that look like? Let's not forget, y'all. I'm going to redo this show. I'm going to redo a show, not this show, but I'm going to redo the show that we did last year when I talked about militia, its origin, its purpose, its reasoning, why it was created, and because it was a big lie, it was a farce, and how those militias have turned into the police department of today. The militias were the slave catchers and the slave regulators of their time. That's what they did. They were required by law. If you were a white man over the age of 18 in this country, particularly in the colonies of the slave states, you were required by law to own a particular military type rifle, which would be today's AR-15, and to patrol the roads and check plantations once a month for contraband or any attempts at escape. It was said that in the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms was a necessity for the sake of protecting this country from enemies, foreign and domestic. That's what they said. They also included the fact that it had to have states' rights. Why did they need states' rights? Why? Because they needed to maintain slavery in the South. That kept the federal government from changing any of that. See, this is how it all ties together, y'all. This is how the reason why right now we're dealing with voter suppression showing up once again the way that it did during Jim Crow. This is why these things are taking place. It's all tied together. And I try so hard to make people understand how important and critical history of this country is and why it's necessary to know what happened in the past so that you can see exactly writing on the wall what's happening right now. Because this is where we're headed. If we don't stop it, if these things are not stopped, we will be back. We are literally one piece of legislation away from a Supreme Court decision to strike down the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. You think it can't happen? You better wake up. This is America. You now have white people in the street protesting about their rights being taken away. The most entitled group of people on the planet are complaining now. That's insane to me. Willie Everett says, I don't have my glasses, y'all, but I'm going to try to read this. There are clearly still a great deal of police that just don't get it. Yes, sir, I agree 100%. We will no longer be silent, and they are afraid of our true strength. I agree again. Look what they did to the lieutenant in Virginia. Yep, Willie, you late. We were talking about that. That occurred in December and is now just making the news. Yep. Firing the officer is not good enough. I agree with that as well. We need to demand more and stop celebrating these small victories. Well, I ain't gonna say that. We need to bring these things to the forefront. I'm happy that this thing went viral and we saw enough of it, and we are. Uh, they need to know that we are happy that some things are moving in a better direction. It's hard not to celebrate these things when things have gone so far the other way for so long. It's hard not to get a little excited. So we'll leave that one where it is. We need to scale up and make those before us raise up in their graves and applaud our stance on police reform and justice. Yep. Pay attention to who you elect as judges in these elections. We know better, so let's do better. Absolutely 100% correct. And Willie, yes, we were discussing that before you came in. So you are correct. There has to come a point with police reform. Uh, See, the thing is, it's going to require, I think, some sort of federal legislation to make the states do particular types of training, and that there be penalty for those who drop the ball, so to speak, in their job. I mean, think about it. If you do a job and you mess up and keep messing up, just like some of these officers have multiple complaints of police brutality and doing those sorts of things, but yet they continue to keep their jobs because of these unions. And have you noticed that during, for example, 45's administration, they did everything in their power to get rid of some unions. They want to kill these unions, right? Why ain't they trying to kill the police unions just as equally as hard? Oh, imagine that. They're not, because they want these police officers to continue to have qualified immunity, be able to make mistakes, kill people, and go back to work. Business as usual. That must stop. That must stop. It has to stop. Lastly, y'all, Knoxville, Tennessee, this evening. Apparently, there's been another mass shooting at a school. Multiple people shot, including one police officer. Now, I got to get the rest of the details because apparently this just happened, which brings us back to the conversation that we were having before in regard to firearms, weapons, and the rules about gun law. They are talking about, according to Biden's plan, they want to eliminate these grips that go on pistols that make you go up your arm. It's like a little rat, like how you remember how we used to have those rich rockets that we used back in the day, like a slingshot. It goes on a gun and it makes it easier and more, so it can be more accurate to shoot. Okay, cool. That's dumb as hell. If I'm going to shoot and I got the wherewithal to go and buy this piece to put on my pistol to make myself more accurate, why don't I just go buy a damn rifle? It's just as easy to get and more accurate and can shoot probably more. Okay, that's dumb. Then you have these are those uh, political strategic lateral moves that politicians make. This is what they're going to refer to in the future as a Pyrrhic victory. You won. Did you really? Did you really get anything done? Or was it just some nonsense? Well, here's the thing. The other thing that they want to ban are the ghost guns, which that's not going to be really possible. Right now, these guns are legal. They want to, I guess, make them illegal. That's going to be very difficult. Why? Because some of the same people that they want to legislate these things out of existence own them. There are thousands and thousands of them in the world, just like there are any other guns with serial numbers on them. Now, if you don't know what a ghost gun is, let me explain it to you. particularly for the AR-15. That is the most popular base gun there is in the country. It is referred to as an assault rifle, unless, of course, you are Kyle Rittenton. Because if you recall, all the time while Kyle Rittenton was being processed through the system in order to be prosecuted, which now they don't even know where he is. He has skipped bail. Every reference of the firearm that he was carrying, this 17-year-old who crossed the border to so-called protect private property, who ain't never paid a tax on a piece of property in his life, they kept saying his long gun. They didn't say assault rifle. They never said AR-15. They said long gun. You see how that works? Because they've turned this kid into a hero. White society has turned this child into a hero in their eyes because he can save their whiteness. What he did was patriotic. I told y'all I'm done with that word patriot. Patriot used to mean something. Now to me, patriot means I'm a white nationalist. Because the people who use it, Donald Trump and his supporters of the world, all have bad intentions. So that word to me is dead. They've got this kid out here claiming that he's a patriot, he's a hero. They made a martyr into this 17-year-old with an AR-15 assault rifle. Sorry, long gun. But yet we want to legislate out these particular weapons, but not even the AR-15. They're not even talking about banning assault rifles. See, this is where the subtleties of the law come in. You got to be careful. You got to pay attention. They're not talking about banning assault rifles. They're talking about banning the ghost guns. Now, let me explain the ghost gun to you. Prior to 45 becoming president, the gun thing was already hectic. Right now, you can go into any gun store, any sporting goods store, anywhere. Finding ammunition is damn near impossible. Almost anything. I don't care what it is. It's hard to come by. Why? Because as soon as it hits the shelves, people are buying it up. Because people are stockpiling weapons. Why are people stockpiling weapons? Because ever since the time of Obama, those 8 years, that was when they really started selling a lot of guns. Everybody swore up and down, Obama's going to take your gun. Obama's going to take your gun. Obama never thought about going after anybody's gun. And then Trump took office. And rather than talk about Trump taking people's guns, it was, buy more guns because there's going to be a riot. There's going to be a war. We're going to take this country back. So they bought more guns. Now, we got Joe Biden who says, I'm going to take your guns. And guess what? Buying them up still. The gun market has gone bananas. There are enough guns in this country for everybody and their mama and their children 2 or 3 times over. Now, to pretend that this country wasn't founded on violence, economics, and religion is a foolish notion. Guns will never go away in this country at any time. Now, this so-called ghost gun ban, because they're not going to ban assault rifles. That's not going to happen. It's just not. So get that out of your head. The ghost gun is you used to be able, prior to all of these incidences, you used to be able to buy what we call a receiver. Now, a receiver is a little area of the AR-15. It's about that big. And like I say, you got the handle here. It's about that long. It holds the trigger mechanism. It holds where you put the clip in so that the rounds go into the barrel or into the chamber. Now, you can buy these things for about $50 each. 50, 75, 100 bucks. Then you buy the trigger mechanism. And sometimes you can buy them pre-built. But these, because you're buying it in pieces, doesn't have a serial number because it's not a whole gun. You're not buying a gun. All you're buying is a receiver. And you're buying the mechanisms inside that you put inside the receiver. Once you've built the receiver, then you can choose your barrel. got uh, a couple of different, you got several manufacturers of these. That's all they make is the barrel. You got people who make the stock. You got people who make every piece of this gun. There's a separate manufacturer. You can go to those people and pick out the mediocre one. You can pick out the best one. You can pick them out any way you want and build yourself a long gun. Oh, AR-15, assault rifle, long gun. Whatever your preference is. Doesn't matter. You can build you one. And by the time you're done, you can build a decent one for about $500. But you can also go into the sporting goods store and buy yourself one off the shelf of Smith & Wesson. Well, you used to. I don't know now. The prices have gone through the roof. Why? Because everybody wants them. They range anywhere from $500 up to $3,000 or $4,000. Why? Because of the different components. It's like customizing a car. Building a ghost gun is sort of like building your own car. Instead of going to Chevrolet, Mercedes, and buying one of those, you say, I'm going to build me one. And you start buying your parts. You buy a part here, a part there. And your car is completed, but it doesn't have a serial number. They'll make you get a serial number for your car if you want to register it and drive it before they'll make you get a serial number for a gun. And guess what? Cars kill far more people every day than guns. I know it's just insane, right? So you build your gun, all these custom features, doesn't have a serial number. So guess what? That means it is not traceable to any one individual who purchased it. I always wonder why they go through these changes of when a person goes and does a mass shooting. Oh, where do you get the gun? Let's do a background check. Now we want to check and see where the gun came from. Does it matter? You got 15 people over here dead and wounded, and you want to know how he got the gun. And believe it or not, and most of the time, the funny thing is, most of the time, the people who are doing these mass shootings have purchased these guns from a store legally. Straight up went in there, bought it over the counter. Went through the process that you go through to buy any gun and bought them. No problem. So do you think that banning ghost guns from someone built is going to matter? It is absolutely not going to matter. So what? The only benefit of having a ghost gun is that no one can prove that you went and bought it out of a store. No one can say, oh, he bought that, he traced the serial number, he bought that car, he bought that gun from here. He bought that gun from over there. By that time, does it matter? People are dead. This is not rocket science. It's not that hard. It's just not. To believe that a gun ban is going to come in America, they tried it once, and you see that went away. They're not going to let it happen again. And I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, I think the NRA right now is actually filed bankruptcy. I don't know if they're actually bankrupt. I know they begged for money from me for multiple times. I refused to give them a damn dime. I didn't know when I signed up for the NRA years ago that they were a racist organization. Now, I'll probably get in trouble for making that assertion. I can voice my own opinion based on my own experiences with them, so that exonerates me from that trouble. But that is my opinion based on what I know and what I've seen. They will never get a dime from me. They used to call my phone after I realized who I was dealing with. They used to call my phone, and first thing out of their mouth, this was back when Obama was in office. Sir, you are a valued member of the NRA, and we want to help you because Barack Obama is going to try to take your gun. Click. Wrong answer. Started out all wrong right there. And this is the type of scare tactic that they use the entire time to say, you're going to lose your guns. You lose your guns. You're going to lose your guns. This is what they did to generate income. This was all about making money. They did. With all of that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna come up out of this rabbit hole right now. Sometimes it's hard to get out these rabbit holes. I want to say thank each and every one of you for tuning in to the Chicago edition of the Black Factor. We'll be back in the studio by Friday. If I am not on Wednesday, it's because I am traveling. Because I got to go home, y'all. I got to go home, y'all. But I want to say thank you. And we're going to dig deeper like we always do. We're going to continue to tie history to our current situations so that we try and understand better about where we are. Perspective is everything. And this is the Black Factor. So, with all of that said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time. I look forward to your participation once again. Don't forget to get your copy of the Black Factor at bmforbes.com. Don't forget to hit the share, the like, follow, uh, and subscribe buttons on all of the whatever platform you watching me from. Hit them buttons. Keep the show going. Help support me. Make this thing do what it do, y'all. Everybody have yourselves a wonderful evening. And I am out of here. Love, peace, and chicken grease, y'all.